Good morning, Kansas City. This is the Pete Mundo Show on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7. Patrick Tuohey, this Kansas City's second favorite Patrick, sitting in for Pete. And we'll have Kevin Keatsman join me in a few minutes to talk about what he's got coming up on his show. But right now, we're about to drop a bomb on the Kansas City media marketplace. We're going to be talking about this for weeks. We have been told as voters in Kansas City, Missouri, that there is no opportunity to vote on the city subsidizing a downtown ballpark. But ladies and gentlemen, that is about to change. I have Terrence Wise with me, spokesmodel for the Missouri Workers Center, who has some news. Terrence, good morning.
Good morning.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. First, tell me a little bit about the Missouri Workers Center. I can gather something by the name, but I'm not familiar with the organization.
Definitely. The Missouri Workers Center is a statewide organization of low-wage workers and folks in the community who are fighting not only to win good union jobs across the state, but lift wages and challenge many other social justice ills that plague our state.
You know, it's funny. A lot of the audience listening to KCMO Talk Radio would tell you that they are right of center, and certainly I am. But there are a lot of issues where I cross paths with the Missouri Workers Center, and we're on the same side, and a downtown ballpark that's subsidized by taxpayers is one of them. I understand that you guys are turning in signatures today to the city at 11 that will require a public vote on anything the city wants to do with the Royals. Tell me more about that.
Definitely. You know, not only that, but the question of the day is, why should poor and working people give our dollars to a billionaire? You know, and this ballot measure is not only going to ensure that we have a voice, but that workers and folks in the community are not left behind. You know, when I think about the issues in Kansas City, affordable housing, our schools, our infrastructure, healthcare, public transit,
it's everything. It's not just any issue, it's every issue, right? Conservatives and liberals can agree that we have government for a reason. We can argue about the number of services it provides, but clearly it's there to provide services. And redirecting public funds for private interest is just crazy. Now, let me ask, there are members of the Kansas City Council who are more aligned with you guys than they are, say, with the Show Me Institute. Yet this measure passed almost unanimously a few months ago, and a lot of union leadership is supportive of this project. So even on the left, it would appear there's not agreement on how to move forward. How do you understand that? Or maybe just more directly, what is the Missouri Workers Center position?
Well, you know, we think that folks like myself and low-wage workers should have a voice. You know, if we're going to build stadiums for profit businesses, taxpayer dollars are used, then people should have a vote on that.
I absolutely agree. And even if we have a vote, because we did something like this years ago in Kansas City on the airport, petitioners were told that the city wasn't going to have a vote. Petitioners gathered signatures, required a vote. The city then, actually, and I'll ask you about this, but if my memory serves correct, the city council then said, all right, we'll put this on the ballot. And then when it went to a vote of the people, it was passed, which maybe wasn't the hope of the petitioners, but at least it required the people of Kansas City, whatever the outcome, to cast a vote. And that in and of itself is important. So what are the next steps here? So you turn in these signatures. I imagine the city clerk has to vet the signatures, but assuming you have enough, what happens next? Do you know?
Oh, yeah. Well, we needed a little over 2,000 signatures, and we're turning over 4,500 signatures in.
Wow.
And the city clerk will have 10 days to validate it and refer it to city council, who will then have 60 days to pass an ordinance on it.
And so the city council, so that ordinance could either be, well, what are their options, right? They could either put it on the ballot for a public vote, or maybe they could adopt it themselves, or do they have the power to not do what the petition requires of them?
No, it's exactly how you spelled it out. They have the opportunity to either change the language and send it back to us, or put it up as is.
That's fascinating. And then, so you said they have 60, forgive me, the clerk has 10 days, then the council has 60 days to put this on the ballot. And then is it, I guess they have with the August or the November election, like Like we're going to end up voting on this probably this year. Is that your understanding, or do we know?
In November.
That's fantastic. So tell me, how long does it take you? I imagine an organization like Missouri Workers could probably collect 4,500 signatures, especially on this issue, over the course of a single weekend. Do you know how long you guys were out there? I haven't read anything about signature gathering in the media, so I imagine a lot of people are going to be surprised by this news. But how long were you guys out collecting signatures? Do you know?
It took us about 2 weeks to gather over 4,500 signatures.
That's fantastic. And do any members of the council know this is coming? I guess that's my question. Are you aware of that? I mean, I imagine some of them might be supportive.
They will definitely get the message today.
And now tell me more about the Missouri Workers Center more broadly, because again, the name is not familiar to me. But I imagine there's a lot of overlap with KC Tenants. Of course, KC Tenants was very active in 2024 opposing the vote in Jackson County on moving the Royals downtown. And of course, Missouri Workers is statewide, not just local. But tell me more about the organization. I understand you represent low-income workers, but is there overlap with KC Tenants? Are there other organizations that I would be more familiar with that you've worked with in the past?
Definitely. The Missouri Workers Center was born out of a stand-up KC and the fight for 15 and a union movement nationwide. Stand-up KC was the Kansas City arm of the Fight for 15 and a union movement, and Missouri Workers Center was born out of that movement. Now, the Missouri Workers Center, and myself included, have been in this fight with the Royals ever since it was voted down last time. I sat across the table from John Sherman and his team as we negotiated a community benefits agreement before the last vote, and the Royals did not negotiate in good faith. Now, when we said community benefits agreement, we weren't talking about dollar hot dog night or free tickets. We wanted a true return on our tax dollars being given to subsidize the stadium, like affordable housing in and around the new ballpark, a living wage scale for workers in and around the stadium, and a hiring hall that would give access to jobs to some of the poor zip codes in the city. And the Royals walked away from that table and didn't negotiate in good faith. So we've been going at it with billionaire John Sherman and this $1 billion ballpark for a while now. But that's a little bit about the Missouri Workers Center.
So let me ask, and this will be the last question. And thank you so much for your time this morning. I'm very excited to learn of this and for you guys to turn in today. We're going to be talking about this for weeks. So the first thing that's going to happen, I imagine, is you guys are going to get a call from the Royals who are going to want to, I'll say, buy you off, but they're going to want to negotiate something that takes you off the table. So, and of course, any kind of community benefits agreement is in a way trying to buy off organizations to get their support. But I maintain the best community benefit for a Royal Stadium is just for John Sherman and the team to pay their taxes. That's it. Never mind set-asides for special groups. How confident are you that the Missouri Workers Center and other similar organizations are going to stand up and not be, I'll say it, not be bought off ahead of some election?
You know, historically, when we look around our city and our country, poor and working class people have always risen up against the billionaire class and those who tried to oppress and hold us down. And it'll be no different in this situation. I'll go back to the top of this program when I asked the question, why do we have to give a billionaire money to pay for his business? The one person who can afford to build his own home and should be doing so. If me or you wanted to build a new home, we'd have to go to the bank, get a loan, and use our own money. Why do we have to give the Royals money? I can't even afford to go to a game. Have you seen the price of parking and a hot dog?
Yeah, it's crazy.
And I'm sure a lot of folks in the community feel the same. Why am I giving this billionaire my money? But I'm sure that our working class folks and poor people in this community will rise up in this moment and at the ballot box as well, just like we did before.
Well, Terrence, from your mouth to God's ears, and you're exactly right about the cost of games. And the irony is that ticket prices and food concession prices are probably going to be even higher at a new park after taxpayers spend billions for it. Terrence, thank you so much. Congratulations to you and the Missouri Workers Center.